What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Alex, aka Alex the Vagabond, and today I'm gonna be answering some of the questions that you all asked me on my Instagram. So I did a little Q&A, I did a Q&A post. I asked you to ask me some questions, and I'm gonna do my best to get around to as many of them as I can. You guys asked some really interesting and thought-provoking questions. So without further ado, let's get into it. Let's start off with some basic questions and then we'll get into some of the juicier ones. First question from Sebastian Bass, where are you from? I'm from San Diego, California. I was born and raised in San Diego. It's right next to the border with Mexico, and I spent my first 18 years living in San Diego. After I graduated high school, I moved to Santa Barbara, went to UC Santa Barbara for a couple of years, and then I moved to Spain, and that's kind of when the whole travel story thing began. Where do you want to go that you haven't been yet? That's a really challenging question because part of me wants to go everywhere. It would probably be a toss-up between Patagonia and the Himalayas in India or Nepal or Bhutan. I'm just really interested in those mountain areas. I would love to ride the world's highest motorable road in India. I just generally want to spend more time in the mountains. It's really relaxing for me. I find it inspiring. Ooh, juicy one. It's Jenny Allen asks, what was your first impression of Carrie Rad when you met? Carrie and I used to be managed by the same management company here in Los Angeles, and it was about 3 years ago now. All of the talent and the managers and the employees of the company came together for like a holiday party, and I went to that party and was standing in line for an ice cream sandwich because they had like a pop-up ice cream sandwich truck there, like a food truck. And in front of me was Carrie, and we started debating what was the best combination for an ice cream sandwich. What did I think of Carrie when I first met her? I thought that she was beautiful. I thought that she had an amazing smile and that her eyes were just magnetic to me, like I couldn't stop looking at her. And then I loved her personality. She's just so sweet and kind and funny. We just spent so much time laughing. So I think that those were my first impressions. But I still disagree with her ice cream sandwich choice. This one I find really interesting, and it's a multi-tiered question. I find myself also thinking about this question and sometimes struggling with it. Advice for someone trying to better themselves fitness-wise, financially, motivation-wise. Number one, I think the most important thing that applies to all of these is to continue learning. Never stop learning. Teach yourself. Stay up to date with current events. Read books that challenge your mind. Your mind is a muscle, and if you stop using it, it's gonna go flabby. You don't want a flabby mind. You wanna keep your mind sharp. Taking an hour a day to read at the end of the day and read a book that challenges your thoughts. There's a lot of good books that I will recommend in just a minute, but I think that the most important thing that you can do for all of those is to learn and to keep learning. Secondly, I think it's very important to set a routine. Especially when you're traveling, it's difficult to keep a routine, but if you let your routine go, then you essentially go with it. When I travel, I set my alarm an hour earlier than I usually would wake up. It's challenging in the beginning, but it pays off. During that time, I will either go for a run in the city that I'm in, or I will do a workout with an app called Results. They're all body weight workouts. They're challenging. You can set your routine, how many days a week you want to work out, and then they will come up with different body weight workouts for you. I also like to bring my yoga mat. I have a travel yoga mat, which I will link down there in the description. It's super helpful for at the end of the day, getting a stretch in, decompressing, doing a bit of like yin yoga. Set a routine and stick to it. Read some books. There's a lot of really good books out there that will help you stay motivated, that will help you improve your fitness and your financial situation. So first and foremost, I would recommend reading a book by the author Ryan Holiday. It's called The Obstacle is the Way. And it's essentially a collection of experiences from historical figures who have to go through extremely challenging times, but instead of going around an obstacle or being stopped by an obstacle, they go through the obstacle. And that mentality will really help you in your life dealing with the obstacles that inevitably come up with modern living. On that note, this book I read about 2 months ago. It's called Discipline Equals Freedom, a Field Manual, and it's by the author Jocko Willink. He was a Navy SEAL, and the book is laid out differently than a normal book. It's almost like a train of thought, stream of consciousness almost, but it's really easy to read, to understand, and to implement. And he really challenges you to take control of your own life by using discipline and self-discipline to set goals and achieve them. And that book was really good to kind of snap me out of a little funk that I was in this past summer, and to help me get back on track with my goals and self-discipline. Lastly, right now I'm listening to an Audible book by Charles Duhigg. It's called The Power of Habit, Why We Do What We Do. And this book has really opened my eyes a lot to just the power of habits and the habits that we fall into and we allow ourselves to develop, and how difficult it can be to change those habits. You can't break a habit essentially, but you can reshape how you react to that trigger to a more beneficial or healthy habit. So it's not really about breaking habits, it's about replacing them, recognizing the triggers that make you do those habits that could be self-destructive. That book is really opening my eyes. I'm listening to it right now on Audible, and I really love it. The photo that I posted on my Instagram where I prompted you to ask me questions for this video was shot in Kauai when I was on a hike there with Carrie. So Eric Lash 22 asks, what are those boots? They look comfy. Also, what camera gear did I bring for the hike? I made a vlog about that on this channel. It's the Kauai vlog. You can check it out if you haven't seen it already. I was wearing these Zamberlan boots. I will link them down in the description. They're made in Italy, they're Gore-Tex, they're made with really nice, sturdy leather. I've owned these boots for about 5 years now. They're still in incredible condition. I've worn them in lots of different environments, from the cold of Finnish winter to the dry deserts of Namibia and the muddy mountains of Ecuador. They have survived all of the different environments, and I would give those boots 5 out of 5. About camera gear, less is more, especially when I'm doing vlogs by myself. I don't like to lug around a ton of equipment, so I shoot primarily on Sony Alpha cameras. Right now I'm shooting on an A7R III. I really love the new lenses that Sony's releasing, these G-Master lenses. I'm shooting this video on the 16-35 f2.8, but I also really love this lens, the Sony 24mm to 70mm f2.8 G-Master lens. Both of these lenses are very, very powerful. They have a really crisp, sharp, great depth of field, and I love those lenses. What I brought for that vlog was the 24-70 with a variable density filter. I also brought a Sony RX105 with this little waterproof housing. I love this. And then last but not least, I would recommend this. This is the GoPro Karma Grip. It is a great camera. The GoPros are super awesome. You can get a GoPro 6, a 5, a 7, and fit them into the Karma Grip, but I love this. This is a tiny little gimbal. It's gonna help you get really good, smooth footage, and it's not gonna break the bank, nor is it super heavy to carry around. Also, obviously, a drone. I love to drone. I think that they're a super useful tool. I've been shooting mostly with the Mavic Pro, but I just got the Mavic Pro 2, but I'm really excited to take it out on the next big trip, and I'll let you guys know how much I like it. Gonzo Hall asks, have I been to Portugal? And if so, where? When I graduated college, I was 21 years old. I moved to Spain to teach English, and I lived in a region called Galicia, right above Portugal. I took a trip to Portugal. I had about 10 days off from school, and I traveled via bus and train, a little bit of hitchhiking through Portugal, down through Oporto, known for its port wine. I only spent a couple of days there though because my goal was to go and surf. So I made my way down to a town called Peniche. I haven't been to Lisbon yet. I'm definitely interested in visiting and hopefully I can make that happen this year. Let's get into a juicy question. What's the worst part of the best country you've been to and the best part of the worst country you've been to? I think that the best country is the United States, and the worst part about the United States is the current political situation, the divisiveness, the us versus them mentality that's happening in our country. It's really saddening, and I think it's potentially very dangerous. And I really hope that Americans can come together and kind of bridge this red-blue divide and realize that, you know, we're all Americans, we're all in this together, and what we do and what we say and the message that we send really affects the rest of the world. So it's our responsibility as global leaders to set the right tone and to be respectful and try to solve problems instead of create new ones. Best part of the worst country I've been to, Zimbabwe. Nothing against the people of Zimbabwe, but the situation in that country when I visited in 2013, it was just very corrosive and toxic. The president had been president for many decades. Mugabe, the political situation, the corruption, poverty, it just made it not a pleasant place for me. But that being said, it was really beautiful naturally, and I hope that things can change for the better in Zimbabwe. When/how do you wash your clothes on the road? I tend to try to avoid doing laundry on the road. I pack quick dry, easy wash stuff. So my underwear are almost exclusively from Ex Officio. They're quick dry, very easy to wash. You can hand wash them. I bring a little refillable tube of Dr. Bronner's soap, or you could use like Camp Suds, that biodegradable, eco-friendly soap. And if I have to, I'll just do like a load of laundry in the bathtub at the hotel. But if I really need to wash all of my clothes, I will just go to the nearest laundromat. If you're doing longer term travel and just, you know, budget an afternoon to taking care of your laundry, it's not that big of an inconvenience, and it's definitely worth it to have clean clothes. But if you can avoid doing laundry, just hand wash your stuff and leave it to dry outside. I would consider myself fluent in 2 languages, Spanish and English, but conversational in 4 or maybe 5. I can also understand and speak French. I can speak a little bit of Portuguese. It's more like Portuñol, a mixture between Spanish and Portuguese. And I kind of picked that up when I was living in Galicia. And then when I lived in the Basque Country in Spain, it was very close to the border with France. I started taking these audio tape books from a guy named Michel Thomas. He's a super interesting person. Unfortunately, he's no longer around, but his lessons and his philosophy and his style of teaching live on. I will link the Michel Thomas language learning cassette tapes in the description. They're super helpful, and that essentially taught me how to speak French in like a week. Speaking a language will really help you with cultural immersion. It's really gonna allow the locals to open up to you. It's gonna give you opportunities for experiences that you would not have if you didn't speak the language. I can't even read my own handwriting. I think it's Mood Nurizan asks, how do you travel around in the places you visit? I don't have a car. I really think that first and foremost, the best way to get around a city is to walk. It's gonna open up many possibilities to discover new things that you didn't know existed. When you're walking around lost in a neighborhood, that's a great opportunity to ask for help from a local and to get a tip that you would not get if you were just sticking to a guidebook. Secondly, if you can, lots of cities around the world are starting to do these bike sharing programs. They're really great, doesn't cost very much money at all. So you can rent a bicycle, like a hop-on, hop-off bike. If you're trying to get from A to B, that's a really good way to do it. And it's not gonna break the bank. Plus, I just love traveling by bicycle. Third, public transportation. For example, if you're going to London, buying an Oyster card and then loading that up with like 20 quid when you arrive to the city, it's gonna allow you to hop on the underground. It's gonna allow you to get on a bus. It's a great way to get a vibe and a feel for the city that you're visiting. You can use apps like City Mapper or even Google Maps, which will allow you to pick your preferred mode of transportation, and then it'll give you directions like where to walk to catch what bus to get to whatever your destination is. And then last but not least, I would say getting an Uber. If you don't have Uber, I'll link a little thing in the description. Really straightforward, it's trustworthy. You can see the drivers have been reviewed and you know how much you're paying. One of the things that I don't like when traveling is just hopping into random taxi cabs because unfortunately sometimes, bad experiences can happen with cabbies. Also, if you're a solo female traveler, you can set alerts and have like a preferred contact. So when Carrie is traveling, she just enables this thing. So I know when Carrie hops in an Uber where she is, I can track her trip. I can find out when she arrives safely to her destination. And it's just a really good way to keep in contact with people and kind of have a little safety net. So if you're a solo traveler, make sure to just enable that on your Uber. It's a really easy way to keep people in the loop and to stay safe. If you go to Africa, which part will you go to? I love traveling in Africa, and I'm really bummed that we haven't done any trips to Africa lately. Before I started doing YouTube, I had traveled pretty extensively in Africa. I'd been to Senegal, to Morocco, to South Africa, to Zimbabwe, to Tanzania, and Namibia. Namibia is one of the most amazing countries in the world. There are few places where you can feel as insignificant and small in a giant landscape, and just remember that, like, wow, I'm one person, I'm a human, and in the grander scheme of things, I'm not all that important. That's a feeling that I think can really add perspective and help get a grasp on like where you are in life, what you want to do, what you want to be. Also, we're planning on climbing Mount Kilimanjaro this year in 2019. That's been on my bucket list for a very, very long time. I've seen Mount Kilimanjaro in the distance when Marco and I visited Tanzania in 2013. I want to go back. I want to do a bigger series there. I'd love to go visit Zanzibar after climbing Kilimanjaro, but that's been on my bucket list for a long time. So let me know if you guys want to see that content. Just drop that comment down there. Let me know, give this video a thumbs up, and yeah, we'll try to make it happen. How many cities and countries have you visited? That's a difficult one. I don't really like keep a tally. I'm 30 years old now. I've been traveling essentially my whole life. My mom was a flight attendant. My dad is from New Zealand, so I kind of grew up in between time zones and between cultures. So I feel very blessed and lucky to have traveled quite extensively even before I started the YouTube channel. I would say it's probably around 60 countries that I've visited so far. It would be cool to visit all of the countries in the world, but it's not something that's like a burning desire for me. Certain destinations hold a certain appeal for me, and I'm prioritizing those destinations by that. The Mary Lewis asks, how do you balance traveling and a healthy relationship? That question was one that I asked myself quite a bit before I was in a relationship. When I was single, I was sitting there thinking, how am I ever gonna have a girlfriend? How am I ever gonna be in a relationship when I'm constantly gone? I feel like I got really lucky with Carrie because we are just on such a similar level. We both have our own businesses and our own priorities, but so much of that is overlapping that we're able to really understand each other and to help each other and to grow each other. I got lucky, I would say, but I think for those of you who are asking, you're in a relationship but you want to travel and you might not be able to travel with your significant other, I would say that it's super important to stay in touch all the time when you're traveling, even just sending a quick little selfie and a text update, but also set a routine. Try to talk at least once a day on FaceTime or on Skype, because that face-to-face connection is really important, especially when you're doing long distance or you're traveling. Other than that, I would say when you are at home, make the most of your time at home. When I come home, Carrie and I are essentially inseparable. We spend almost all of our time together. I think that it's really important when you do have the opportunity to spend time together that you go all in on that. You spend as much time as possible together. I think that that's pretty good for this time around. We'll check in again soon for another Q&A. Also stay tuned. I really want to start sharing more videos about like how I stay inspired and tips and tricks for making the most of your creativity, whether that's, like photo guides or editing guides, tips in Lightroom, tips for photography, videography, and then also just kind of like one-on-ones where I explain what has worked for me and how I stay inspired, and maybe you guys can glean some useful tips from that. Also, I know that the holidays are coming up. You might be thinking about gifts, what to get friends or family. Please take a moment and check out my photography gallery. I'm gonna be doing a flash sale on there, and you can get really cool prints. They have these metal ones that I'm really digging, but not to mention framed photos, individual prints, canvas, etc. And I'm gonna make them more affordable so you guys can bring some home or share the gift of travel with your friends and family during the holidays this year. So if you enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up. If you have any questions or ideas for videos that you want me to make, drop those down in the comments section. And remember, believe in yourself, make your own luck, and never give up. Peace.